Hello guys and welcome back. In this video I'm trying to paint my first US tank commander for the M4 Sherman. Let's get started. First I will prime the figure in a light grey color. We will start with the face and hands. The base color for this is Brown Sand by Vallejo. The paint is applied in several thin layers with a brush until it's completely opaque. The paint is used undiluted and straight from the bottle to achieve the best opacity. I can't tell if my figure is wearing gloves, and the instructions state that it's skin, so I'm painting the hands the same way I do the face. I have to wait now until the base layer is completely dry before I can continue. Now we need to add some more shadows to the face. This is best done with a heavily diluted red paint, basically a red wash. The wash will be applied to the entire face and hands. Try to distribute the paint evenly and make sure it doesn't pool too much. This glaze must now dry completely before we can continue again. With the darkest shadows added, it is now time to give the face more depth. And for that, we now need to add highlights in several steps. The first color again is the base color, as the glaze has darkened everything. I now paint the raised parts of the face, such as the nose, cheekbones, chin and forehead, leaving the sunken areas untouched and darker. For any additional highlights, I first mix some flat flash into my brown sand. Each layer is now lightened a little bit more than the previous one with this color. The lighter color is now applied only over the previously painted color, reducing the area each time. This way we achieve a nice, even gradient from the darkest to the lightest color and add a realistic highlight. I recommend using a brush with a fine tip, like a DaVinci No. 2 I'm using here. At the end, we reach the smallest highlight layer, which consists only of the flat flash color. These areas are really only for the finest points and edges. Once you're satisfied with your result, you can stop adding additional layers. And now we come to the uniform and equipment. The quality of the figure makes it a bit difficult to identify the equipment and choose the right color. When I was unsure, I simply used the colors specified in the instructions. I start with the helmet, which is painted in Vallejo's US Olive Drab. Here too, I apply several thin coats as not to obscure the already limited details. The strap on the helmet is painted in a lighter shade of green to add some visual interest. And the small speaker on his headset, which is barely visible in this figure, is painted black. I paint his jacket in khaki green. This is one of the most common colors in US uniforms and looks always great. And his trousers I painted in US Field Drab. The instructions called for a nearly identical color for both pieces, but I wanted to add a bit more variety to both of them. His belt is painted in leather brown by Revell. The shoes are in two colors. Buff by AK for the fabric part and leather brown for the actual boots. Technically, everything is painted now and you could leave the figure like this, but the uniform does look a bit pale like that. So I will use a similar technique to the one I used on the face to add some highlights. Both base colors are mixed with buff to create a lighter shade. The first layer is only a small amount lighter to keep the shade close to the base color. This highlighting technique only works if the figure has nice and visible details. That's why usually more expensive figures are actually better for beginners, as they have more detail to work with. Maybe I should get one of those beautiful alpine miniature figures at some point. I use the lighter color to work out all the details, like the pockets and the edges of his jacket. If the figure's uniform has some deep creases, those are a good place to add some more highlights. The method is the same for the jacket and trousers. In each step, the previous color is mixed with a bit more buff to lighten it. Then the lighter color is applied over the previous area, applying less paint each time. Another great way to highlight the details is to paint the buttons and metal parts like the belt buckle silver. As the final detail, I'll highlight the edge of his helmet with a lighter shade of green to give it a bit more contrast compared to the rest. Then the figure is sealed with a coat of clear matte varnish. And in the final weathering step, I use a dark brown enamel wash to create further shadows. I apply it sparingly as to not overpower the previously added highlights. Also, be careful to avoid the wash on his face, as the dark brown could ruin any shading we did before. Once I'm satisfied, I seal everything with another coat of matte varnish. And that concludes this basic tutorial for a US Army commander. For a figure from, I think, 1985, this result is pretty alright. As mentioned, the quality of the figure plays a major role in the final result, and a less detailed figure will always be more difficult, if not impossible, to bring to the same level as a high quality resin figure. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to never miss any future uploads. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.